So one thing I've always loved about The Lion King is kind of just how it has this natural background music at the start of it, and then it jumps straight into a dramatic song. So I kind of wanted to do that with this movie to, give it a similar kind of feel at the beginning. Then you're introduced to this, little track and field place, which these characters, Lenny and Shavy, were both secondary characters in a Lion King fanfiction I read once called The Secret Joker. And I'm kind of like, well, they're secondary characters, but they're also very, they have a lot of potential to them. So I threw them in there. I threw them at set in this little track where I was familiar to having them. And I said, let's see where this goes. I hate how long the pauses are between each of the lines. I think I've gotten better as movies have gone on. So here we go, they get introduced to each other eventually. Now, of course, coming up here we have Wolfred, the singing wolf. We have his first song was meant to be about Shavy. And I did actually do the whole 4 lines to the song, but at the end of the day I thought, it's not really that good. The lyrics I had to Wolfred's poem here about Shavy weren't that good, so I kind of just get Shavy to cut him off to, kind of show that she's not about nonsense, she's like, let's get to the point here. But at the same time, I kind of don't like it. I don't really like how Shavy comes off as being a bit mean-spirited at the start here, because I mean, you guys who have seen all the episodes, she's a very friendly character, but, she's also, she doesn't like nonsense, which unfortunately Lenny's all about nonsense. And as time goes on, she's learned to tolerate that.
Sunrise tomorrow. We meet here. You think you're faster than me? Prove it. I'm sorry, Lenny.
So, of course, coming up at the end of this scene, the more I watch this scene, the less I like it, just because of the pauses. But, I mean, people really like this chicken scene, so I think it helped them get through it. And yes, I did actually capture that chicken crowing on camera once. It was a good piece of film, I thought. But yeah, coming up now, we got, Lenny going to visit Unduk the devil. And the two things about Unduk there, or Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call him. One is that I'm like, when I began this, I didn't think it would be a series. I thought I would just do one movie. So I'm like, if I'm going to make a movie, there's got to be good and there's got to be evil. There's got to be a villain, basically, the point I'm getting to. And I'm like, well, the best villain I can do is, some kind of satanic demon character, because there's a lot of those running around on Feral Heart. And I'm like, well, if all my main characters are lion, then they probably think of, Satan the devil being some kind of dog. So that's why he ends up being a red dog. And then, of course, you get all these little mousetrap jokes in here that kind of come in sense later, and Shavy's destroyed house, and you make connections to those, her parents, as the movie goes on.
Oh, Duke. I've travelled for a long time to get to
You'll notice all the voices sound a little bit different than what they do later on in the series. Of course, I was still experimenting with all the voices at this time, trying to get them just the way I liked them.
Oh, great Unduk. I would like to make a trade. I need to receive an unworldly power that would make me the fastest lion on Earth.
I can make such a trade, Lenny. But first I will need something very important. A soul.
I really like that shot. Just
here.
The way they have the sun in the middle of them, and like Lenny's on one side and Unduk's on the other.
You cannot give me.
Of course, you couldn't fly in Ascension Island. Unduk is actually being filmed here in a different map. Actually, I think this whole thing is taking place in a different map than Ascension Island. So, just letting you know, I really can't remember what map it was, so.
And condemn herself to hell.
Exactly. So why don't you make her slow? That'll really put her down.
Unduk's better idea, of course, ends up being evicting Shavy, basically making her homeless, and until she's driven to depression. This Matthew Broderick joke, I just like how it came out. I'm like, yeah, I know I don't sound like Simba, so I'm just going to put that in the caption at the bottom there.
You live at Pride Rock. I know. I saw it in the movie once.
Yeah, I was acting.
Of course, I really couldn't do Nala's voice, so when you get into the second movie, Yuku Quest for the Great Huntress, that's why Nala's voice came up with just that scream, you know, that goes on. I'm like, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to make it a really silly voice and go with it, and I think a lot of people like how that's came out.
There's no one else on Earth I'd rather not take off.
So that's it then? I'm homeless?
Get used to it, Sherry.
Well, you could always move back in with your parents.
Now you finally get why Sherry never wants to move back in with her parents, because they're just obsessed with watching mousetraps on TV, and it drives her
I
crazy.
don't think this is the last you've heard from me. My friend lives in Atlantis. He knows when I'm in trouble, and I bet he's always...
You never really... Shemshi at the start was never meant to be a major character. He was always called Shemshi, and I always had this impression of there was either connection between him and Sherry, or, you know, they were good friends. I never really expected I would get to the point where it would be a loving relationship, you know, where they ended up having a wedding. I was worried that the series would go downhill if I ever got to that point. But I think I'm doing alright.
Lenny?
You know, you're actually really lucky.
I just love this
How so?
exchange. It's like Lenny says an absurd
just saying,
statement
I
and
was in a
Sherry says,
situation.
please
I wasn't
explain it, and
expecting
Lenny
sort of
can't.
Spanish Inquisition.
And then he
Well,
brings up the whole
remember you told me
Spanish
that
Inquisition
Bangkok was like a
thing.
big
If
deal?
you've never seen this
I'm
movie
sorry,
all the way
Lenny.
through, there's
Got
like a
bigger
little
problems right now.
character
Well,
runs
look,
on
I
screen
can
at the
help.
very end and says,
want
no
some
one
of it,
expects
right?
the Spanish
You've got a
Inquisition
place?
after
Well,
the
yeah,
movie's
but it's not
pretty
for
much
you.
over.
Besides, that would break the deal.
What did...
I do, however, know of a small cave that's not technically a home, so it wouldn't ruin anything.
Can you show it to
Sherry's
me,
house
please?
number 2.
Here it is.
Lenny, it's wonderful. Thank you so very much.
So, since you now have a home, think you'd mind racing me tomorrow?
Deal's a deal.
When Sherry loses.
Here's the thing, Lenny's never really evil. I mean, I think you guys have all seen enough episodes to realise that. He's just so stupid, he doesn't have the brain capacity. Not really stupid, he just doesn't use the brain capacity to think about others. And
You
when
know,
Sherry finally
you won't
explains to him,
I sold your soul to
hey,
the devil to make me the fastest
haven't
lion
you
on
thought
earth.
about this aspect of it? He
Yeah, everything's
realises,
fine.
oh yeah.
What the?
And this is when Sherry finally knocks that into his head.
It was at that moment that I realised I would always be safe around Lenny. That's all I
Kinda
have
tried
say.
to make it a reality
You sold my
TV
soul to
show
the
a bit
devil?
with those
How
cutaways
you win?
to just the
But don't have
characters
to be the
breaking the
fastest to win,
fourth
I
wall,
just need
talking to the
stamina.
camera.
Face it, Lenny, you'll never win a race.
This was one of the last decisions I had in this movie to add this song in it, because originally Lenny was just going to catch up with Sherry and they were going to see that her house was destroyed and, you know, they would talk about their problems there. But then I'm like, if I add this Toy Story song in there, which, you know, I wasn't proud of doing, taking a song from Pixar and just throwing it in there, but I felt it really did make the scene, you know, it's like all of a sudden Lenny's beginning to realise, hey, there might be another issue here, and also, you know, it's not going the way he thought it would go.
Sherry, look,
My home.
This is another thing I'm glad I did. I'm like, you know, that not
Well,
only has
you
there
could
got to be a
always
bad
move back
guy,
in
there's
with your
got to be
parents.
something bad going on, and, you know,
What's going on, Lenny? I demand
having your
to know.
house destroyed or
Okay.
not being
It's
able
only a
to
soul
keep
to
her
me, which I
home,
could get
such
Steve.
as Sherry
And
is,
Steve would
you
make
know,
me
really
famous
bad.
and
It's
I'd be the
something
person so that
you
would
want to
sing
have
as a
resolved
joke.
by the end of a movie.
And
But at the same time,
say
I've been able to
anything
draw it
about
out to comedic effects. You know what? She's lost her house 12 times now, and
nothing's
I meet
changed.
people in Feral Heart, and they say, "Why is Sherry homeless all the time?" I'm like, "Well, I hope it doesn't upset you." And they're like, "No, I find it funny." I'm just like, "How did that joke
Well,
come
I
around?"
see
I'm
that
like,
now.
I don't know. It gives you a personal connection to Sherry. Because honestly, I think the stories are usually more about her than they are Lenny. The story with Lenny is always the same. Oh, I'm the fastest animal on Earth. Then he finds out he's not. And then, you know, but the one who pays the price for him finding out is usually Sherry. And the episode is them working together to get Sherry's life back on track. Just as much, if not even more than Lenny's. And honestly, you'll find that pattern in most of the movies.
I will never be driven to sin no matter how much you destroy my life.
Oh, are you really going
I've never really decided what I want to really call Rubara, if he's a god or if he's just a angel, I guess is perhaps the best word. And then Wolfred finally gets to sing a song, and I get an excuse to not have to animate a full fight scene, which is kind of hard to do on Feral Heart.
Thank you both for
I love that. I don't know if that gets noticed, but it's like, thank you both for finding my satanic brother, and the fight is over, and Lenny's just getting to the top of Ascension Island after it's all over.
And the deed will be done. You have both learned a lot. Congratulations, both of you. As your reward...
Now this scene that's coming up, the NASCAR scene, was filmed in a game called iRacing. It's at a track called Virginia International Raceway. It's a road course in Virginia state in the United States, and this is actually a red building that sits on the side of the track. Obviously the building Sherry's inside here is in the red building in Feral City on Feral Heart, but from the outside this is all iRacing, and then he's actually going around the track a wrong way sometimes. And I put Satan's number on there, the 666, to... You see he's going the wrong way down that straight, actually. The number 666 to remind you that it kind of opens the possibility of a sequel. It's like, hey, everything's still not right here. You know, it's the end of a movie, and as comedic as it is, Sherry's house is still destroyed, and Lenny's still not the fastest lion, and Shemshi still hasn't found his girl. So, you know, as much as I said, hey, this might just be a one-off, this is the best I can do for now, it opened the possibility up for sequels in the future, and I'm glad it did. It's been a fun ride. Had to have that in there.
You're a bit late on that, I'm